Hey, what's up YouTube? In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a Jollibee fast food restaurant with a drive-thru in Minecraft for all of your city building needs. And not only will I show you how to make the entire outside of the build, but I will show you how to make the entire inside as well. This is the amount of space required to make the build, including a handy grid that you may choose to copy that will show you the starting position. And here are all of the materials that we will use throughout the build. Please do make sure that you have access to all of these. Begin the build by placing 6 light grey terracotta in a row on the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Dig 2 rows to the right, replace those blocks with stripped oak wood, and then place iron doors on top. To the right of the doors, place a light grey terracotta, dig in the ground 2 rows, and replace those with sea lanterns, and on the end here, place a light grey terracotta. Do that one more time, dig 2 rows, replace those blocks with sea lanterns, and then place a light grey terracotta. We then want to extend backwards by 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then dig 2 more rows, replace those with sea lanterns, and then place 2 light grey terracotta extending right, dig 2 more rows, replace those blocks with sea lanterns, and then place 3 light grey terracotta, 1, 2, 3, extending right. And then, now, extending across the back of the build, we want to place 2 more light grey terracotta, dig 2 rows in the ground, place 2 sea lanterns, then place 2 more light grey terracotta, dig 2 rows in the ground, and place 2 stripped oak wood with iron doors on top. Then, place a row of light grey terracotta extending right that lines up with the front of the build, which we can then extend all the way to the front of the build and we can just join back. Next, we are going to dig and remove all of the grass inside of our build. Then we have to do something pretty interesting with the floor. Starting on the left side of the build, we will place a sequence of white, black, white, black, white concretes like this. We are going to then expand this pattern of concretes to create a checkered pattern in the ground, like this. It's going to extend all the way from the front of the build, all the way to the back of the build. And once we have placed all of one colour, we will swap to the opposite and fill in all of these gaps. Then we will grab our stripped oak wood and we will fill the rest of the floor in. I'm being careful to place it in a particular way. I want to place it long ways like this, extending from the front of the build to the back of the build, just because I think it looks a little bit better this way. Next, let's focus on the front of the build. To start with, we will place black stained glass above the door. We will then place 3 rows of glass, 1, 2, 3, on top of our 2 rows of sea lanterns. We will then place 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 light grey terracotta extending up from this corner of the build, which we can then extend across and down to the opposite side here. And then we are going to fill all of these gaps in, basically the entire wall, with light grey terracotta. And then, on the left side of the build here, we will leave a gap of 2 from the end, 1, 2, and then place 3, 1, 2, 3, red terracotta, which we will extend 2 rows forwards, and we will extend all the way up until we are 2 rows, 1, 2, higher than the top of the build. Next, we are going to move around to the right side here, where we will place 3 rows of glass, 1, 2, 3, on top of our 2 rows of sea lanterns. And then we will extend the corner of this wall up and join it to the front of the build, or vice versa, extend it backwards and down. The point is, we want to create a solid wall that we can then fill in with light grey terracotta. Whilst we're on this side, we also want to add an order board right here. This is made by placing 2 note blocks, a 2x2 square of grey concrete on top of these, and then we are just going to clad the side of this with spruce trapdoors. We also want to add some paintings, which might have actually been a good idea to do first, as for some reason you can place paintings just on this little bit of trapdoor. Regardless, this is what we want to end up with. This leads us around to the back of the build where, you guessed it, we want to place 3 rows of glass on top of our sea lanterns, extend the top of the wall all the way over to the right and down, and then we can simply fill all of this space in with light grey terracotta. Perhaps we could even add some glass above the door as well, just to match the front. On the back of the build, we have a bin, which we are going to make using 2 blue concrete, throw some spruce trapdoors on top, cauldron here, and we'll just have a couple of white candles here. Which then leads us onto the final side of the build, where we have the drive-thru window, which we make by placing 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 light grey terracotta here. We then leave a gap and place a glass, which we extend up, and you can just extend some light grey concrete up and around this area, and then you can just fill the rest of this side of the build in with light grey terracotta. Next, we are going to do some digging. The digging begins right here at the front of the grid and extends all the way to the back of the build. We dig 2 rows extending out of the back and then all the way across to the opposite side here. Then we just dig 1 row along the side of the build like so, and we extend all the way to the very front of the grid. And then we just have to remove every single block in between. Next, we will place a row of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 smooth stone extending from that position, with a row of white concrete extending to the front of the grid. We will then place 2 grey concrete extending left from the end, a white concrete, 2 grey, white, 2 grey, and then white concrete, and then we simply extend forwards 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can see how that matches the opposite side. We will then repeat this pattern. Not doing a very good job. There we go, that's better. Extending across back to the opposite side, where we then want to just connect these white concretes together and then fill the middle of these areas in with grey concrete. We will then add yellow carpet to the tops of the rows of the car parking spaces, which they are, and then we can actually go ahead and fill all of the remaining space that we have dug and removed in using smooth stone. This is all the way around the build. We also want to place leaves extending all the way around the edge of the build, kind of leaving room for some of the key parts such as the drive-thru and the entrances, as you may have seen. We then want to dig and remove 3 entire rows orbiting the restaurant. So just around everything that we've placed really, from the front of the grid all the way extending around to the back of the restaurant and then all the way back to the front again, we dig 3 rows. And we fill all of that in with cyan terracotta. This is going to make the actual drive-thru road. I also like the idea of having like a waiting bay at the front of the build like this. So if we dig an area that's kind of the same size as the car parking spots like this, and we kind of like build it into the road a little bit like so. I like the idea of having like a little waiting bay, so just in case you have to wait for your food to be made, then like you can pull up and you can wait there. Moving on, we now have to dig 1 entire row all the way around the road that we have now made. And replace all of that with podzol. Whoops. And then stick large ferns on top of the podzol. And then place a 2-row high brick wall all the way around the edge of the podzol. So this is basically just on the outer part of the grid. I was also considering adding some brick slabs on top of this just to make it ever so slightly higher than the large ferns, which it kind of is already, but it would be a very minor detail, something you might want to consider. Next, we are going to add the ceiling for the inside of the build. It starts right here, so just leave a gap of 1 just above the windows, and then we are going to fill the entire empty space in here using smooth quartz. Next, we are going to add a layer of black concrete that sits above and outside of the walls of the restaurant. We then want to add another layer of black concrete around the outside of that. We then want to fill the entire top of this shape in using black concrete. Next, we are going to add a layer of red concrete that extends above and around the outside of the building, just above the window line. So, you can leave it like this with just one row, or you can add another row around this. On the left side of the build, I would recommend just having a single row. It actually makes it a little bit more interesting as well when you look at it from certain angles. Next, we are going to write out the word Jollibee in letters using banners. So first of all, we have to throw down a loom, put a white banner in there with black dye. The first letter we have to make is J, which is the pale sinister pattern, followed by the base pattern. Next is O, that's the pale sinister, pale dexter, chief, and then base pattern. Next is L. This is the pale dexter pattern followed by the base pattern. We can actually reuse the L, so now we can move on to I, which is simply the pale pattern. Then B, which is the pale sinister, chief, base, pale dexter, fast pattern. Lastly, we have to make E, which is the chief, fess, and base pattern, followed by the pale dexter. And we can take each one of these banners, and it's up to you how you place them. You can place them against the building, or my recommendation is on top of here, starting here, J, O, L, L, I, B, E, E. And if you place them like that, you'll notice how they kind of sit nicely within the center of that part of the building, above the windows. It looks very good. Now that we have made the entire outside of the build, it's time to head inside and work on the interior. First of all, we are going to place a 2x2 square of black concrete in the back corner of the build here. We will then place smooth quartz stairs in front, polished black stone wall in front of that, with red carpet on top of the wall. We will then leave a gap of 1, and then we will repeat this again. And then we will leave a gap of 1, and then we repeat this one more time. So that gives us a set of seats, which we are going to repeat starting here. So literally doing the exact same thing. Next, let's add some counter space. This starts here. We place a row of black concrete that extends all the way over to the very right side, leaving a gap of 1 for access. We can stick a flower pot here with a fern inside of it. Next to this, heavy weighted pressure plate, smooth quartz stair here, and then we are going to leave a gap of 2, and then start this again. We'll place a heavy weighted pressure plate and a smooth quartz stair. We will then just place a set of glass extending all the way over to the right to hit this wall. And then in this corner, we will place a row of 1, 2, 3, 4 red concrete and extend that forwards by 2 rows. We will then place a brewing stand here and a flower pot here. And we will place black concrete behind this, extending up to the ceiling with stone buttons above this. And then we will place red concrete along the left and right sides of this and across the top, just like so. We will then extend the red concrete across the top, all the way over to the right and down, and we will add an extra row. So we'll have something that should look like this. We then, inside of this area, will add 2 blocks of iron here, stone buttons here, white concrete here, iron trapdoor here, a couple of furnaces both here and here, and then on top of the furnaces we are going to place detector rails and item frames with roast chicken inside of the item frames in no particular order, and then we are going to place some black concretes extending across even the top of the drive-thru window like this. And we're going to place a bunch of paintings to have a pseudo order board. So we can actually have this here, or if we move out slightly, we can have a row of black concrete that sits above and across the top of this area here. And you can have it here instead, effectively. So starting from like one side of the till to the other. Those aren't actually even a bad set of paintings to have this, but I kind of prefer it in that position over there. So it's kind of up to you which one you do prefer. Also, we are going to add a glow item frame here, a chest here, and an oak trapdoor here. And that's it. With that final detail added, we have officially completed this tutorial. However, this video is not over. We must now add our Jollibee into our city. Jollibee is going to be added into the new suburban suburbs just behind the cinema, because after you've watched a really good movie, who doesn't enjoy a nice little bit of Jollibees? Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this tutorial, please remember to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Also, consider becoming a channel member. You will gain access to loyalty badges, some fun emojis, and a monthly download for every single build used in our city. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.